Welcome to True Unseen Crime, where shadows speak and silence is rarely innocent. On this channel, we uncover stories buried beneath fear, loyalty, betrayal, and cold deception. If you enjoy gripping true crime stories with twists, emotion, and suspense, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. Now, let's get into today's story. The Fletchers were the kind of family people envied, on the surface. Living in a leafy suburb outside Asheville, North Carolina, they had everything: a booming family-run furniture business, spotless reputations, and a beautiful colonial home perched on a quiet cul-de-sac. Walter Fletcher, the patriarch, was a decorated Vietnam veteran turned business mogul. His wife, Elaine, was a devout churchgoer, always quick to help a neighbor or deliver a casserole. But what no one could see from the outside was that the family bond holding them together was threadbare and soaked in lies. It began with a whisper, one that made its way through the town like fog creeping under doorways. Walter Fletcher had suffered a stroke. While he survived, he could no longer speak clearly. This meant something big: control of the family business, and its $40 million valuation was up for grabs. That's when everything unraveled. Walter's oldest son, Caleb, the polished and charming firstborn, wasted no time asserting his dominance. He was the golden child, Ivy League educated, charismatic, and already pulling strings with the company's board. But Caleb had secrets: an offshore account in Belize, a quiet affair with his brother's wife, and a documented history of psychological abuse toward his younger siblings, sealed in therapy records no one ever expected to see. His brother Jake, on the other hand, was the black sheep. A former addict, now 6 years sober, Jake had kept his distance from the family empire. He worked as a recovery counselor and lived in a modest duplex on the other side of town. But when Walter's condition made headlines in the local paper, Jake showed up at the house for the first time in years. He wasn't there for reconciliation. Jake stood on the porch of his childhood home, hands in the pockets of his worn denim jacket. It had been 11 years since he stepped foot inside. The house looked the same: immaculate landscaping, white pillars, and a brass-plated plaque that read the Fletchers, EST 1972. But to Jake, it may as well have been a crime scene. Elaine opened the door with a stiff smile. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," she said, voice cold but controlled. "I heard about Dad," Jake muttered. "Thought I'd stop by." "Don't pretend you care," Caleb's voice rang from the hallway behind her. He descended the staircase in a tailored suit, barefoot, holding a tumbler of whiskey like it was noon in 1965. "You're here because you heard about the money." Jake didn't flinch. "I'm here because I know something's wrong."
And he did.
A week before Walter's stroke, Jake had received an anonymous envelope in the mail. Inside was a flash drive. No return address. The contents were chilling: a series of audio recordings dated over the last 2 years, conversations between Walter and an unknown man discussing forged documents, family embezzlement, and removing the weak links. Jake couldn't tell who the other voice belonged to, but the tone was unmistakable. It was someone in the family. That's when Jake contacted an old friend, Lena Torres, a retired FBI agent who now consulted for law firms on fraud and organized crime. Jake had helped her brother get clean years ago. Lena owed him. After listening to the recordings, Lena's response was sharp. "Jake, if these tapes are real, you're not just dealing with family drama. You're sitting on a conspiracy that could put someone in federal prison." They devised a plan. Jake would wear a wire. His job was to get back into the family's inner circle and find out who the second voice was and what exactly they were planning now that Walter was incapacitated. What he didn't expect was what he found in the attic the next day. Jake had gone looking for old photo albums to maintain his cover. But behind the insulation paneling, he discovered a hidden compartment. Inside was a metal box filled with burner phones, encrypted USBs, and a dusty, handwritten ledger. At the top of the ledger, CR, cleanse ranks. Inside were names. Family members. Employees. Friends. Some were crossed out. Some had red ink around them. And next to Jake's name was a date, just 2 weeks from now. Jake stared at the ledger, hands trembling. The date next to his name, May 19th, was 2 weeks away. He took a photo of the page, closed the box, and slid it back into the wall. He'd learned enough in recovery to know that confrontation without proof was suicide, especially when you're dealing with people who treat family like chess pieces. Back in his car, he called Lena. "Do not leave that house until we have legal cause," she warned. "They'll notice you're onto something."
By time.
Act like you're still the lost son coming home. So Jake played the part. He complimented Caleb's taste in wine. He laughed at Elaine's passive-aggressive comments. And when asked if he'd consider a consulting role in the business, he agreed, knowing full well they were trying to keep him close. That night, as Caleb got drunk on the patio and the housekeeper locked up, Jake slipped into Walter's study. It hadn't been touched since the stroke. Behind the bookshelf, Walter's personal safe was still there. Lena had sent him a mini fiber cam and a set of autopics, the perks of having friends in high places. Inside the safe was a sealed manila envelope labeled Guardian Clause, Rev. 2. Jake opened it. It was a copy of the revised will. And it changed everything. The clause stated that in the event Walter became medically incapacitated, control of the estate would pass not to Caleb or Elaine, but to Jake. The clause had been added 6 months ago. It was signed, notarized, and completely unknown to the rest of the family. Jake took pictures of the document and resealed the envelope. But he wasn't the only one sneaking around. At 3:12 a.m., Jake heard the creak of the floorboards outside his old bedroom. He slipped out of bed silently, cracked the door. Elaine was standing in the hallway, wearing a nightgown, holding one of the burner phones. She wasn't talking. She was listening. Elaine stood frozen in the hallway, holding the burner phone like a relic. Jake ducked silently into the shadows of the bathroom, heart pounding.
She didn't speak.
She simply placed the phone back behind a loose panel in the hallway cabinet and walked toward her bedroom without a word. If you're still with us, brave listener, thank you for joining us on this harrowing descent. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with someone who thinks they've heard it all. Until next episode on True Unseen Crime.